All right, welcome to Synergy Coaching, and my name is Greg Copeland. I am the founder of Synergy Coaching and Synergy Business Strategies. Today, we are going to start our series on self-mastery, and a lot of what we do with Synergy Coaching is help people live their best possible life, and a big part of that is creating and developing this mastery of oneself. So, a little bit of my background and where this comes from in my history is I've studied Shaolin martial arts for 25 years, and a big part of what we do in that particular style of martial art is it's a big part about cultivating the self and mastering the self, and learning to overcome and create optimal health, optimal wellness, and the ability to master every day. So a big part of what we want to do in this series is kind of touch on some of the things that we focus on from that perspective. And the good news is that you don't have to be a martial artist to live this lifestyle. Okay, you can be just a person that wants to be better tomorrow than they are today, and that is the biggest component of what we do and what we strive for and what we look at with Synergy Coaching. So in today's video, the first of our series on self-mastery, we're going to explore 2 topics. There are going to be 10 topics in total. We're going to explore the first 2 today. The first topic of discussion is going to be investing in proper effort, and the second is going to be the value of structure. And the reason we're covering these 2 today is they kind of work together. When we talk about the effort that we're going to put into like a long-term plan for making our life better, then you need to look at not just your immediate effort on a daily basis, but how we structure that over the course of a period of time. And when we talk about effort, it's not just the effort of each practice that you partake in. It's the effort of the ongoing practice and the way that you stay focused on the long term. And that also ties into the value of structure and how structure makes that so much easier for you. So let's talk a little bit about effort. And when we talk about effort, what does that look like? So I typically like to start with repetition. When we talk about any single effort, that has value. All right, anytime you can go out and if we look at a run, you can go out and go do a 2-mile run. So that's got value, but it doesn't have any lasting value. The only lasting value is when we kind of repeat that activity and make it a part of our existence and who we are. So repetition is really critically important in terms of creating this better long-term sustainable life. And it's really, really important when we tie it back to how we look at mastering oneself. So we want to have daily practice, and we want it to be regimented and structured. And we'll talk about structure in just a minute. So this continual practice, from a martial arts perspective, continual practice makes each movement closer to perfect. So we continue to strive for that. And that would be the same with just about anything that we do. The more you ride your bike, the better you're going to be at riding your bike. So that's where repetition and the effort of doing repetitive efforts comes into play. So that's a big thing. The next thing that we talk about, because we are talking about lifestyle changes and we're talking about, creating a structure that you're going to work around, whatever you choose to do. Okay, I'm not here to tell you, what you're going to do. Those are choices that you make. I can certainly help guide you. If you want to reach out to us at Synergy Coaching, and help you with those choices and how to make that work. But ultimately, it's going to be your choice. There are a lot of different ways to reach self-mastery. And as we go through this series, you'll understand that it's not just about the do's. It's about how we view everything and how we view our daily lives. But the next aspect of all of this is time. It's we have basically 24 hours a day. If we're going to be healthy, probably 8 of that needs to be spent horizontally, sleeping. So that's an important part. So we basically have 16 hours a day. Well, we've got an 8-hour work day. We've got family obligations. We've got we got just the whirlwind of life that we have to deal with. And so how do we make a commitment of time to these positive gains that we want to make? And the key to that is going to be structure, but the key to that is commitment. You have to make and commit to making your life better. This is not always easy to do, but it needs to be important to you. And that's, without having that level of commitment, you'll never complete the journey. And once you start the journey, you should not stop. You should not stop. Finally, just the word effort in and of itself, kind of like what we're talking about, this is not an easy pathway at first, okay? And I will say at first, because as you get moving forward, as hard as it may seem right now, to kind of restructure the way you live your life, it's hard because it's different. And that type of change is not easy to get started. And the first month is difficult. And but you have to stick with it. It's the only way to accomplish the things, whatever it is that you're setting out to accomplish. This mastery of yourself, and all of the things that can be included in when you look at yourself, whether it be your health gains, whether it's mental clarity, whether it's mindfulness, which these are all things that we're going to cover as this series goes forward. It takes effort, and it takes time, and it takes the commitment to yourself to do that. And you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So, the greater effort you put forward, the greater rewards you're going to have in terms of making yourself better, and this mastery of your life, and how you take control of that 24-hour period instead of the whirlwind taking control of that 24-hour period for you. And another part of effort is, don't fret over a bad day. If you have a bad day, it's okay. It's going to happen. You're going to have a day where you're not going to meet the structure that you set up, and you can't live in the past over that. You just have to pick up and make tomorrow better. So that's going to be really important as you go forward as well. And then finally, when we talk about proper effort and everything we've talked about up to this point, and the big key is perseverance. It's, you have to start, but that's not enough. It's finish. And the only way you can get to finish is through perseverance. And that stick-to-itiveness, even like we just talked about, if you have a bad day, no big thing, okay? Just set yourself up for a better day tomorrow, and just don't worry too much about that. Um, as we talked about, my foundation in self-mastery comes from, studying martial arts for 25 years. And, I was fortunate enough to know the Grand Master of our style. And he traveled with us a good bit, and I was able to spend time with him. And I can remember, when I was a young student and asked him one question. I said, what is the most important aspect to be successful in martial arts? It's martial arts discussion, but this, it was like, Greg, this applies to life too, and that is, perseverance. I can sum it up in one word: perseverance. Just stay with it. So that lesson really kind of has stayed with me, and it has great value. If I can tell you one thing, it's to persevere. Don't give up. Once you start, keep going. And that's all right. So let's have a discussion on structure and the value of structure. And I want to start out by discussing a paradox. And the paradox I want to discuss with you is the paradox of how having structure actually allows for you to have freedom. So when we think about freedom, especially because, we're Americans, and most of us, this is going globally, so, this will be from an American perspective. Oftentimes we think about the ability to do what we want to do. All right. So that's kind of an odd way to look at freedom. So, because it's not always about doing what we want to do. If we do what we want to do, like, our mind is always going to have these ideas about what we want to do. And anybody that's lived to be an adult understands that oftentimes the mind doesn't always give us the best clues as to the direction we should go on things. So from a Shaolin perspective, it's kind of the reverse of that. Freedom becomes more about our ability to overcome those ideas that pop into our mind, because a lot of times they're going to have negative consequence. And then there's also a lot of times that the mind kind of controls our existence, and we can't have that. We need to transcend that. And we'll talk about that a lot when we get into mindfulness and some of the other topics that we'll discuss in this series. But, given that paradox about what freedom is and how we can overcome that through structure, let's talk about structure and how that might apply. So when we talk about structure, we talk about having a routine for our daily existence. And, from, like, if you lived in a Shaolin temple, or if you were a monk, you're even if you're in the military, one thing that makes military so strong is that they have, like, this tremendous structure. So you can look at any of these types of examples of people that live by a daily structure. They get up every morning, they have time dedicated to the things that they have to have time dedicated to in order to be successful. For us as human beings, a big part of that is, one thing we'll touch on a lot, and one thing that especially for Americans is true, is that we don't know wellness. We just don't. We don't make time for our wellness. And 95% of Americans don't even know what real wellness is like. And that goes for people who you look at them and you think, well, that guy's really fit, or she's really fit, and she's a runner, but she may not know wellness, because it's like this it's this whole, there are multiple facets that tie into this. It's not just that, they're thin and attractive. Okay. That's not enough. I mean, you can be really unhealthy and be thin and attractive. It's not just being spiritually grounded, okay? Although that's critically important. That's one of the components. You have to have something to believe in. And then you have to have this balance between all of these different components. So, and then you have to be able to balance your world and the life that you lead. And, the wellness part takes time. It takes exercise and it takes effort. And you cannot, and I will repeat this over and over and over again, you cannot have self-mastery without having a high level of wellness. So we'll talk about that a good bit, and structure will be critical for that. There's just no way that you can live in the modern world and be successful with these things and not have structure. So anyway, so we talked about the paradox of structure giving you freedom. When you structure your life, all right, and when you put time aside and you have like a routine every day, we talked about continual practice, and we talked about routine and repetition in your practice. Without structure, it's almost impossible to do that. If you wake up and you kind of roll around in the bed a little bit and you're like, I'm going to just sleep in a little bit, but you're scheduled to start your practice at 6:30 in the morning, and you sleep past that becomes a cycle, and it gets easier and easier to skip your practice, and then you fail in your quest, and you don't want to do that. So you need to create a structure for your day, and your structure will be whatever, because I don't know what your schedule looks like work-wise, but you need to have time set aside for all of the things that are important to help you master your life and your existence, and mostly to create this wellness that we're going to be shooting for. So creating that method of repetition is basically a schedule. I have a very regimented day, and you could ask my wife. I'm up every morning at probably 5 to 5:15. It's to the point now I don't even have an alarm clock set. I just get up, and I'll get up and I'll have a cup of coffee. So I'll have a cup of coffee, but then my practice starts, and I'll typically start with some meditation and Qigong in the morning, and then that's my morning practice. I'll sometimes do Tai Chi or Pagua. So it depends on the morning, but I use Training Peaks, and then I'll go through my work day. I start my work day at 8 o'clock or 8:30, and then I'll do my work. I eat lunch at the same time every day, and I'm typically ready to train again in the afternoon late when I've completed my work. And sometimes that's riding a bike, sometimes that's martial art practice. So it depends on what I've got in my Training Peaks program. But my life is regimented like that every day, and then I'm always in bed by 9:30. That's just, I know that sounds like a really boring existence, but it's great for me, and it works really well for me. But that kind of structure helps me to be accountable to myself, and that's my structure every day. And without that structure, I wouldn't be able to accomplish the things I need to accomplish to live my best life. So and finally, we'll talk about later on. We'll talk about the 5 hindrances to self-mastery, and one of the hindrances is called sloth and torpor, and what that basically is having low energy and basically being lazy and not being able to push forward. So having this daily structure, and it kind of helps eliminate that, because it's what you do repetitiously on a daily basis, and that's the value of structure. It sounds like it locks you in so that your freedom goes away, and that's simply not true. As a matter of fact, it opens up whole new avenues for you and understanding. And then there's a lot of things that we'll talk about in some of these others with meditation and mindfulness, and how we can really create some dynamic wellness through this type of structure. So that's basically it for this first video on self-mastery. Proper effort and structure are just going to be critical as you start this journey. But I can promise you that the rewards are going to be well worth it. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for spending the time. Again, I'm trying to keep these things relatively short. I would love it if you want to hit a like on this, and if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can visit our webpage, and I'll put that in the link below. Or you can just leave comments down in the comment section, and I'll answer those as I can. But again, this is just the first of a series of videos, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like it, subscribe, and we will be rolling out another one soon. Thanks. Have a good day.